Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon. Without a doubt, these two have absolutely dominated the TCG market when it came to the world of trading cards. In the 90s, these two were absolute juggernauts, and either side of these were so dominant when it came to IP brands. Yu-Gi-Oh! Was always kind of more of that little dark maturity kind of vibe. Not like dark as in the vibe of the show or anything. To be fair, it's everything far from it. Same could be said with Pokemon. But as the year progressed, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has kind of not had the big cultural impact as Pokemon has. I believe we can all agree that as long as Nintendo decides to slap Pikachu's face on anything, it would sell fans to go crazy. And it absolutely does, without a doubt. But nowadays, people don't really give Yu-Gi-Oh! That much of a shot and realize that nowadays, Yu-Gi-Oh! Didn't make the same landmark in terms of impact as Pokemon did. Not to say that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a bad IP or anything. I'm just saying that throughout the course of time, it seemed like people stopped paying attention to the old dual monster deck and preferred the silly yellow rat creature. Heck, to be fair, I am one of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Defenders, okay? Yu-Gi-Oh! Besides MHA, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was the first anime that I fully binged on my own. My Hero Academia was my first anime, but I only saw clips of it. When I mean by first anime, I mean like first anime I can remember watching. Yu-Gi-Oh! Was the anime that got me hooked into the world of anime in the first place. Honestly, I remember coming home from 3rd grade wanting to binge the Duelist Kingdom arc. Battle City was a banger still to this day. And my favorite card being the Red Eyes Black Dragon. Heck, both Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon were the ways that I believe most of us that are watching this video spent your allowance or any form of money as a kid. To be fair, we would, I at least back then, like when I was crazy about Yu-Gi-Oh!, I would go to the card shop and like ruin my wallet with like, I don't know, have like $20 per like month. And that would like always be gone by the time I was done from the card shop. My brothers got me into the whole card game of Yu-Gi-Oh! But as for the anime, it was entirely binged on my own. Now, back onto the subject. Pokemon has dominated the marketplace, and apparently, according to some sources, over 20 billion units sold when it came to the trading card game in just 1 year alone. I don't think 1 year alone. I can't really trust the internet nowadays. To be fair, people still believe Chainsaw Man's coming back for part 3. But regardless of which, Pokemon has become a giant juggernaut. And I believe we can all agree, Pokemon is everywhere, from clothing brands to card games to TV shows to video games, socks, or whatever you think. Pokemon has probably branded with it. Now, Yu-Gi-Oh! On the other hand, kind of not. In this video, we're going to be diving into why Yu-Gi-Oh! Has kind of built its own legacy away from Pokemon, but still hasn't had the same trademark land when it came to the entertainment side of it. Full disclaimer, I love both of these IPs, but I'm more of a Yu-Gi-Oh! Person. I used to play Cyber Dragon back then. Did I have any idea what I was doing? Probably not. I was probably dookie at the game. But I always preferred Yu-Gi-Oh! A bit more, so I'm not going to be fully biased on this and realize that, yeah, as much as I love Yu-Gi-Oh!, it's clearly kind of less... Pokemon kind of looks down on Yu-Gi-Oh! A bit. So, you know what? In this video, we're going to talk about why. And let's see if Pokemon built some legacy around it. And Yu-Gi-Oh! Built its very own separate legacy. When people talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! Compared to Pokemon, it's easy to see why you think it hasn't had the same cultural footprint. Pokemon, like I said earlier, everywhere. Video games, movies, trading cards, heck, mobile apps, and merchandising. I recall playing Pokemon Go back in its prime. Jeez, 2020 was 6 years ago. Gosh, Yu-Gi-Oh! Didn't quite hit the same level of, accessibility when it came to more than just a trading card game and anime. But that doesn't mean it without its impact. Its influences just work differently. Reasoning is because of the niche audience that thrives on complexity and strategy than more about marketable characters. The trading card game is a huge part of Yu-Gi-Oh!'s identity. The TCG, trading card game, why did I do that? The TCG is fast-paced, before then. It was kind of interactive. Deck building isn't just collecting cards. It was about predicting your opponents, and heck, making your own deck and banning some certain cards would allow players to only get more creative with their deck as they go along. Back then, my brothers would tell me that they would ban certain cards, but that would only make them want to be more creative with their decks, and I believe that was kind of the beauty of Yu-Gi-Oh! Back then. It was also about planning combos, mastering game mechanics. Well, Pokemon encouraged collecting and just straightforward battles that you didn't really need a specific deck to counter another one, or you didn't need to think too deeply about your turns compared to Yu-Gi-Oh! It's more complex that way. That makes it kind of more overwhelming compared to what you would see with Pokemon. Yu-Gi-Oh! Challenges players to think multiple moves ahead, and like the rewarding is like so good and carefully planned, and to adapt constantly to changing rules and card effects. It created kind of like its own little gaming system that was very different compared to Pokemon. It didn't just rely on luck. It defined on your belief and success of how you built your deck. And the anime is also a part of both Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon often leads on friendship and adventures and exploration. Yu-Gi-Oh!, I'll admit, has the same exact qualities, but what I would say could be different from Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that Yu-Gi-Oh! Dives into tension, stakes, and psychological duels. Games aren't just for fun. They're dynamic conflicts that test characters' morals, intellects, and resilience. Iconic duels, the I summon line, the high-stakes storyline that makes so many fights memorable. Heck, honestly, I would kind of be against at the fact when, near the end of Duelist Kingdom, Yugi Moto and Joey literally needed to fight against each other, and like what was so like complex about this was that both of them had valid reasons to win. Joey really needed the money from the tournament to cure his sister's blindness. Well, Maximilian Pegasus, the creator of Duel Monsters, stole Yugi Moto's grandfather's soul. Both of these guys had equal rights to win, honestly, but built more later on, like what the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime would later go on to. But that's for another video. What else? Pokemon has kind of a lighter tone. Rarely reaches some of those kind of dark moments and the moments that Yu-Gi-Oh! Kind of built off. The TCG also created its own world, competitive dueling, tournaments, and the metagame helped build a community that thrives on mystery. Card evolved, with the game constantly adding new mechanics and strategies. That's a difference of legacy. And like I'd want to mention, I kind of dropped the Yu-Gi-Oh! Game after a while, probably because I lost interest in it. But another thing was that they constantly kind of switched things around. There was, back then, what I would remember telling my friends was, oh yeah, you have monster cards to attack, you power them up with your magic cards, then place trap cards for your opponents. It was easy back then, according to the anime and my brothers. But as each generation went by, it felt like the game and anime kind of got more complex as we know it. There was soon synchro summoning. I barely remember more outside of synchro summoning, but if anyone plays the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG, then far from it. If you were to leave Yu-Gi-Oh! Like way long ago and came back, you have so much to learn from. I recently wanted to play Pokemon again. I had my old Ivysaur deck or Venusaur deck, whatever you want to call them. And the game was basically the same, just shinier cards is all. It's depth and mystery all over familiarity, waiting for players to contribute their own stakes and risks at the game. Even darker tons of animes and card games, narratives contributes to its testing identity. It inspires creativity, critical thinking, and high risks, which shape how fans engage with games and storytelling. Unlike Pokemon, which focuses on accessibility. That's another thing, accessibility. Yu-Gi-Oh! Respectfully, is kind of only accessible within the trading card game and constantly going anime. I'll admit, yeah, there's so much parts of Yu-Gi-Oh!, but it's kind of only prioritizing those two things alone. And compared to Pokemon, yeah, sure, they're absolutely pushing the card game a lot. But to be fair, this is a constant thing I see that YouTubers talk about. Who actually knew how to play the card game? My brother taught me a while ago, but even I forgot how to play the card game. It's more about collecting now that we're thinking about it. Yu-Gi-Oh! Demands attention, strategy, and anticipation, making it more influential in but profound in ways which approaches to Yu-Gi-Oh's strategy takes what it makes to make Yu-Gi-Oh! Memorable. Its audience, even its legacy, isn't measured to the sheer global destruction that Pokemon achieved. It's a story about competitive mastery, evolving tactics, and dramatic storytelling, creating a world where every duel can feel like a defining moment. Another thing that I would like to add upon this is that the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime constantly changes. Okay, you got, okay, I don't know if I can name all of them. I only know the first 3 gens of Yu-Gi-Oh! There was the original Yu-Gi-Oh! That aired like in the early 2000s, by dubbed by 4Kids Animation. Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Gosh, that intro still is stuck in my head. Game on. We'll get your cards, right? But oh my gosh, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX was running like. I know that these animes didn't have that much of a long time, considering that they replaced it immediately. But I would assume that it ran for a solid, 5 to 4 years, considering how my personal favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Generation, the best Yu-Gi-Oh! Generation, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Whoa. Never mind, that sounded terrible when I'm thinking about it. Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds aired for, I believe, 5 to 3 seasons, and it introduced kind of its own little gimmick game mechanics, where turbo dueling alone was, the coolest thing I've ever seen back then. And you would just, duel on a motorcycle. And, gosh, I gotta make a video on Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. But, you can see right here, there's plenty more Yu-Gi-Oh! Generations than what we would have had back then. Heck, they even did a not collaboration, but a special little 40-minute special episode where Yugi, Jaden, and Yusei, all 3 of these generations of Yu-Gi-Oh! Gathered around together to defeat, I forgot, but it was a time entity that killed Yugi's grandfather, which clearly was supposed to happen. But without a doubt, this all was very special because without a doubt, clearly each generation meant something to someone different. And sure, you may have not have maybe found GX as enjoying. Maybe you'll like the futuristic part of 5Ds. Maybe you don't like the futuristic part of 5Ds. Go to the ancient Millennium Pharaoh times of the original. And if you don't like either of them, go kick rocks. But regardless of which, yeah, these 3 generations were kind of enough on its own. And I'll be completely honest, it's kind of why I believe most, and even me, stopped binging the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime. But then they kept on releasing more titles, more games. The card game kept on evolving, which was kind of based around the manga, which I feel like people don't really know that much about, that Yu-Gi-Oh! Was actually based off the manga first. It's weird. Very weird. But not that weird. Unless you're vegan. Then you deserve to die. No, I'm joking. But without a doubt, I think this is where most people stopped binging the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime. Let's be honest. Name any character that isn't the main character of any future generations of Yu-Gi-Oh! That isn't, right, OG, GX, and 5Ds. Go on. I'll give you 5 seconds. Unless you're a consistent viewer. Alright, chances are I didn't make it to 5 minutes. 5 seconds. But I'm going to just say this right here. It got too complicated and overwhelming to watch. Let's remember one thing. That when Ash Ketchum from the Pokemon anime stopped appearing, accomplished his dream of becoming a Pokemon master, and went back to Pallet Town. Let's all remember that. That happened in the span of 25 months. Little Tommy from the 80s or 90s could have watched Pokemon back then and barely watched Ash get his first ever Butterfree, and then 25 years later be watching the finale with his own kid, and it was crazy. You didn't need to go back and watch previous seasons to understand the current continuity of Pokemon. You just needed to understand that Ash was in a new place with a new set of characters. As for Yu-Gi-Oh!, it kept on switching main characters and kept on adding more game mechanics that, sure, is very cool to define that specific generation. You know, I could tell my brother that, oh, you grew up with the original? Well, guess what? I grew up with 5Ds or something like that. You know, the name kind of aged badly now I'm thinking about it. Just talking about it now. But yeah, without further doubt, that's kind of another reason why. Is that, yeah, like I said, little Tommy could have barely saw Ash get Pikachu 25 years later, have his kids of his own, and be watching Ash defeat Leon in the final fight of Pokemon. Or at least, what was I going to say? At least the original. Now, they did continue with New Horizons, which, okay, I'm here to defend New Horizons. It genuinely is very well written, and I feel like people don't give it much attention because Ash isn't in it. I get it. It is very hard to switch main character to main character, especially if you're a fan of the property itself. I highly get it. But Yu-Gi-Oh! Keeps on moving, which made it so confusing for people to get into. Like, a few days ago, my friend was telling me, like, doesn't Yu-Gi-Oh! Have so many sequels and, like, spin-offs? And I'll admit, yes, it definitely does, which, yeah, to the average viewer, of course, they would question where to start, what would be the best way to play the card game from which show. But with Pokemon, it welcomes you back with open arms. But Yu-Gi-Oh! It's more about the competitive advantage side, which, yeah, I'll be honest, kind of ruins the show a bit. You have to constantly wonder about what to do next, what show to binge. But that's kind of it for the show I'm assigned. Now, let's talk about how they go in the future. Okay, future me here. I wanted to go back to the series to kind of see the new Yu-Gi-Oh! Animes. You know, I stopped after 5Ds. I've realized I've been mispronouncing Pokemon Horizons all this time. It was always called Pokemon Horizons. I called it New Horizons. That's entirely my fault. I blame myself for that. But, yeah, that's all. I also want you to know I like turtles. I don't know, just figured you want to know I like turtles. But, anyways, yeah, my bad for mistaking the two, I guess. Aftermath. Now, this is going to be mostly tackling about what happens now after what I just mentioned. When you really look at it, what happened is that the peak of both franchises, kind of the conversation shifts to who's bigger, to who did it, who won in their own way. Pokemon continued to expand among the globe and absolutely made the biggest IP franchise known to man. Literally, go search it up. Pokemon beat the Avengers, Spider-Man. Just go. Search it up. What's, like, the biggest IP, like, sold? And it's Pokemon. Like, I don't know how the little yellow rat did it, but he did it. And although Yu-Gi-Oh! May have that, Pokemon consistently shifts around its new game, religious, and mechanics, while staying accessible to new generations without fully shifting the game and flipping it upside down its head. Yu-Gi-Oh! Doubled down on its identity. It's evolving the trading card game constantly into something deeper, faster, and more complex, building a loyal community that values mastery over mass appeal. The aftermath is of the Rise of Shadows 2 on the Rise shows completely different paths. Pokemon became a household name across the world, and something even people who don't play games recognize instantly, like with snap of a finger. I don't even know if the mic on my phone will even notice. Okay, that was probably like the weakest snaps the internet will ever hear, but regardless, all reinforce the cycle of discovery and familiarity. On the other hand, Yu-Gi-Oh! Led into specialization. Its TCG became more competitive with shifting metas, advanced strategies, and constant updates that keep dedicated players invested, instead of trying to be for everyone. Clearly, let me get one thing straight. Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Are so different from each other, and not maybe the same kind of audience. Clearly, if you look at, let's say, a Red Eyes Black Dragon, there's gonna be kids out there that are gonna think that's cooler than if you show a Dragonite from Pokemon. Heck, I am that kid. This is a banger. And I know bangers. This is also a banger. But I love both, personally. Pokemon kind of made me get into card collecting, while Yu-Gi-Oh! Got me into playing cards, in a way. So both kind of did its own job for me, in a way. And yeah, clearly if you show a Yu-Gi-Oh! Card to someone, it's not going to appeal the same way as you show someone a Pokemon card. But if you show someone a Pokemon card, it's not going to appeal the same as if you show someone a Yu-Gi-Oh! Card. Pokemon, respectfully, is kind of more of a cutesy little IP property that still is very wide known across the globe. While Yu-Gi-Oh! Sure, it may have that dark, edgy aesthetic from the 2000s, but clearly still means to people to this day, and they wouldn't give anything away to see that. My voice. Okay. Everyone, it became, my bad. Yu-Gi-Oh! Became for a specific audience, and when it comes to anime, the results reflect that spirit. Pokemon seemed consistent with its themes of adventure, growth, friendship, and even the main character himself, allowing time to remain endless and easy to jump into at any point. Yu-Gi-Oh! Experimented more with introducing new protagonists, mechanics, and tones across the series. Some arrows hit harder than others. I will admit, I believe, if you've seen Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Season 3, I believe that's when they started sliming people out, then yeah, it's kind of deeper compared to other shows. But that willingly to change to keep it fresh for fans who wanted to be still interested, and unpredictable. It's unpredictable. In terms of TCG and also who won, just note, they all won in different ways. Pokemon's card game thrives on collectability and accessibility, making it very easy for casual players and younger audiences to join. I believe that was Pokemon's main thing in the first place. Pokemon, I believe, wasn't never meant to be a competitive TCG. Pokemon, to me, at least in my opinion, was always meant to capitalize off the IP. Sure, the card game and everything was cool and all, but let's all be honest, later down the early 2000s, I don't think they stopped prioritizing the TCG and making the game balanced. I'm not to say the game was flip-flopped upside down, but just to be sure that, yeah, clearly priorities have changed since the 90s. Pokemon isn't meant to be this game. It's meant to be a collectible, in a way. Same for Yu-Gi-Oh! But Yu-Gi-Oh's meant to be played, in a way. Yu-Gi-Oh! Thrives in the TCG and competitive and depth, rewarding players with interest. I cannot read my script for the love of me if the Capco keeps scrolling it down enough for me to not read it fast enough. Alright, the ever-changing the meta. One builds a wide player base, the other builds a deeply engaged one. Neither approach is better, they're just different in their own way. Culturally, they'll be important without a doubt. Pokemon shaped global pop culture, became a shared experience across generations. It's something for people grow up with and will pass down. Yu-Gi-Oh! Shaped a mindset. It influenced how players think about strategy, competition, high stakes, storytelling. Its impact is quieter, but it runs deep in the communities that embrace it. So in the end, the aftermath isn't about one replacing the other. It's about two legacies standing side by side. One represents global connection, accessibility, and the other resembles complexity, intensity, and dedication. And together, they define on what makes a good franchise and truly leaves a mark on the globe. Not just by how many people reaches, but how strongly it says with people who choose it. It's kind of going to be my first time, but I kind of saw a bunch of YouTubers kind of do this, so this will kind of be my end card in a way. Similar to how the Odd Ones Out did it. I'm sorry, I've been watching too much of his old videos. Like, I want to take inspiration from my YouTubers. So, yeah, let me know in the comment section, what have you always preferred more between Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon? I'm dying to know. Honestly, these two are, without a doubt, giant households that, let's be honest, we can't have one without the other. And both of them kind of rival each other in a way that we don't really see that much anymore. Let's be honest. There's so many great card games out there, and my bad. There's so many other great card games out there, and personally, I believe without both Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, TCGs in general would just be so different. And I feel like we should just be grateful for those two. So, good. Let me know in the comment section which you prefer more. If you liked me blabbering about cards, check out the video I made, like, in my channel. I made a card game while I was 3 years old, while I was, like, 3rd grade. It was vastly inspired by Yu-Gi-Oh! And it would help a lot if you go check it out. So, please support the channel. Stay awesome, and I like turtles.